or FIDIC Red Book 1979 training session. In this video, we are going to understand clauses 1 to 20 as a complete project timeline. Rather than simply reading the clauses, we will focus on one important question. What happens, when does it happen, and how many days are available? We will cover notices, programs, delays, testing, taking over, defects, variations, payments, suspension, termination, insurance, force majeure claims, the DAB, and arbitration.
Let's start from Clause 1 and move all the way through Clause 20.
Clause 1 establishes the foundation of the contract. First is the base date. Under subclause 1.1.3.1, the base date is generally 28 days before the latest date for submission of the tender. This date matters because several contractual calculations refer back to it. The commencement date is then established under the contract in clause 8.1, and the time for completion is normally stated in the appendix to tender. Another important area is communication. Contractual notices should be issued properly and in accordance with subclause 1.3. So when a contractor believes that delayed drawings or instructions are affecting progress, the matter should not be handled only verbally. The contractor should create the appropriate contractual record and notice. Clause 2 deals with the employer. One of the most important provisions for planning and claims is subclause 2.1, the employer's obligation regarding access to and possession of the sites. The key point is that access is provided according to the date stated in the contract. Imagine a project where the contractor planned to start excavation on the 1st of January, but full site access is only provided 65 days later. Those 65 days should immediately be recorded. The planner should update the program, identify affected activities, review the critical path, and preserve contemporary records. Clause 2.4 deals with the employer's financial arrangements, and under subclause 2.5, when the employer makes a claim, the proper contractual procedure must be followed. Clause 3 deals with the engineer. The engineer administers the contract and may issue instructions under subclause 3.3. The engineer may also be required to agree or determine matters under subclause 3.5. An important point for contract professionals is that clause 3.5 does not simply mean that every engineer determination automatically has a fixed 28 or 42-day deadlines. The engineer is required to proceed as soon as practicable and follow the contractual process. So when preparing a claim, do not create an artificial deadline unless the contract actually provides one. Clause 4 establishes the contractor's main responsibilities. One of the key deadlines is the performance security. Under subclause 4.2, the contractor generally provides the performance security within 28 days after receiving the letter of acceptance. The contractor also has obligations relating to the representative site operations records, equipment, personnel, and execution of the works. The program is particularly important. Under subclause 8.3, the contractor generally submits the program within 28 days after the commencement date, and progress reports are generally submitted monthly unless otherwise stated. For a planner, this means the program is not just a planning document, it can become important contractual evidence when delays and claims arise. Clause 5 deals with nominated subcontractors. The contractor may need to raise an objection to a nominated subcontractor as soon as practicable after receiving the nomination where the contractual grounds exist. There is no single universal number of days for every action under Clause 5. Clause 6 deals with staff and labour, and these obligations continue throughout the project. Labour, working conditions, health and safety, and personnel records must all be properly managed. From a planning perspective, daily manpower records can become very important. If productivity drops because of a labour shortage, the daily records help demonstrate what actually happened on site. Clause 7 deals with plant materials and workmanship. The contractor must ensure that materials and workmanship comply with the contract. Samples may need to be submitted before materials are incorporated, and inspection and testing take place throughout construction. If a material fails a test or defective workmanship is identified, corrective action may be required. For planning purposes, material approval and inspection activities should be built into the program. A delay in material approval can create a delay to procurement, delivery and installation, so a seemingly small approval delay can eventually affect the critical path. Now we reach one of the most important clauses for planners and delay analysts, Clause 8. Under Subclause 8.1, the engineer gives notice of the commencement date not less than 7 days before it. Once the project starts, the contractor's program is generally submitted within 28 days after the commencement date. The engineer may notify non-compliance with the program within 21 days after receiving it, according to Subclause 8.3. Now consider a practical delay. Suppose ISC drawings are delayed by 40 days. The contractor should identify which activities depend on those drawings, and then the planner should determine whether the delay affects the critical path. The contract team then considers the required notice and claim procedure. The correct sequence is event, notice records, program analysis, EOT claim, and determination. Clause 8 also covers delays, extension of time, rate of progress, delay damages, and suspension. For a planning engineer, this clause is extremely important because it connects contractual events with program performance. Clause 9 deals with tests on completion. Under Subclause 9.1, the contractor generally gives at least 21 days notice before the date on which it is ready for the tests on completion. The contractor then prepares the facilities, equipment, personnel, and documentation required for testing. If the employer delays the tests, the contractor may have contractual rights depending on the circumstances. If the tests fail, retesting may be required. So testing should be shown as a separate activity in the program rather than simply treating it as part of construction. Clause 10 deals with taking over. When the contractor believes the works are ready, the contractual procedure is followed. Under Subclause 10.1, the contractor generally gives the required notice, with the commonly applicable period being at least 14 days before the date on which the works are considered ready. The engineer then has 28 days after receiving the application to issue the taking over certificate or to reject the application with reasons. Taking over is a major milestone. It can affect responsibility for the works, the start of the defects, notification period, the release of certain retention amounts, and the transition to completion activities. Clause 11 deals with defects after taking over. The defects notification period is stated in the appendix to tender. During this period, defects can be identified and the contractor may be required to correct them. The contractor should maintain defect registers, inspection records, photographs, and rectification records. At the end of the relevant process, the performance certificate becomes an important contractual milestone. Under Subclause 11.90, it is generally issued within 28 days after the applicable requirements have been satisfied. Clause 12 covers measurement and evaluation. Unlike some other clauses, there is no single universal 28 or 42-day deadline for all measurement activities. Measurement generally takes place progressively as the works are executed. The contractor provides the necessary information and records, and the engineer evaluates the work in accordance with the contract. This information then feeds directly into the payment process under Clause 14. Clause 13 deals with variations and adjustments. The engineer generally has the right to vary the works at any time before taking over, subject to the contract. A variation may involve additional work, omitted work, changed quantities, changes to design, or other modifications. But planners should remember one important point. A variation is not only a commercial issue, it may also affect time. For every significant variation, the project team should ask, what is the cost impact? What is the resource impact? What is the program impact? Does it affect the critical path? And does it create an entitlement to additional times? Clause 14 is one of the most important clauses for commercial management. Let's look at the payment cycle. The advance payment is subject to the contractual requirements and the period stated in Subclause 14.2. The contractor then submits interim statements, generally at the end of each month, and the engineer reviews the statement and supporting documents. Under subclause 14.6, the interim payment certificate is generally issued within 28 days after receiving the relevant statement. The employer's payment then follows, and under the structure in this timeline, the employer's payment period is 56 days. At completion, the contractor submits the statement at completion. The final payment certificate is generally issued within 28 days after receiving the required final statement and discharge, and payment is generally made within 56 days after that. This is why planners and commercial teams should always maintain a payment tracker. Clause 15 covers termination by the employer. If the contractor fails to comply with contractual obligations, the engineer may issue a notice to correct under subclause 15.1. The contractor must address the failure within the period required by the contract. If the contractual grounds for termination are established, the employer may proceed with termination under subclause 15.2. There is no universal rule that every notice under clause 15 automatically gives the contractor 28 days. Always check the actual contract and particular conditions. Clause 16 deals with suspension and termination by the contractor. Where the employer fails to meet certain contractual obligations, the contractor may have rights under the contract. Under subclause 16.1, the contractor's notice to suspend is generally subject to a 21-day notice period depending on the specific circumstances. The contractor should never suspend work simply because payment is late or because there is a disagreement. The contractual conditions and notice procedure must first be carefully checked. Clause 17 deals with risk and responsibility. The contractor generally has responsibility for the care of the works from commencement until taking over, subject to the contractual allocation of risks. If an event causes damage and it falls within an employee's risk, the contractor should immediately record the event. Photographs, daily reports, inspection records, repair records, and correspondence can all become important evidence. The key principle is record the event when it happens, not 6 months later when the claim is being prepared. Clause 18 deals with insurance. Insurance arrangements must be established in accordance with the contract. Where the applicable provision requires evidence of insurance within 21 days after receiving the letter of acceptance, this deadline should be tracked carefully. Insurance must then be maintained for the required period. When an incident occurs, notice should be given as soon as practicable and the required insurance claim procedure should be followed. Clause 19 deals with force majeure. First, an event must satisfy the contractual definition. Once the relevant party becomes aware of the event, the required notice is generally given within 14 days under the applicable provision. The contractor should not simply wait for the event to finish. The effects should be continuously monitored. The project team should record when the event started, what activities were affected, how resources were affected, what mitigation was attempted, and what effect the event had on completion. This evidence is extremely important when assessing extension of time and the associated contractual consequences. Finally, we come to one of the most important clauses for claims professionals, clause 20. Let's look at the timeline carefully. Day 0 is the date when the contractor becomes aware, or should have become aware, of the event giving rise to the claim. The contractor generally has 28 days to submit the initial notice of claim. The next milestone is the detailed claim. The contractor generally submits the fully detailed claim within 42 days after becoming aware of the event. If the event is continuing, the contractor submits interim updates, generally on a monthly basis. When the effects have ended, the final claim is submitted within the applicable period, commonly 28 days after the end of the effects. The most important lesson is this: do not wait until the end of the project to build a claim. Build the evidence from day 0. Maintain the baseline program, the updated programs, daily reports, manpower records, correspondence, photographs, instructions, and progress records, and maintain the cause and effect relationship between the event and the delay. If the matter develops into a dispute, the DAB process becomes important. Under the timeline shown here, the DAB generally has 84 days after referral to give its decision, unless otherwise agreed. If a party is dissatisfied with the decision, the notice of dissatisfaction is generally issued within 28 days after receiving it. The parties then have a 56-day amicable settlement period before arbitration can proceed under the applicable contractual procedure. So the dispute timeline becomes referral, 84 days DAB decision, 28 days notice of dissatisfaction, 56 days amicable settlement, and then arbitration. So there's the complete FIDIC Red Book 1909 journey, from clause 1 to clause 20. Remember the key numbers: 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, 28 days, 42 days, 56 days, and 84 days. These numbers appear again and again in contract administration, payment, program, claims, and dispute procedures. Always check the signed contract, the appendix to tender, and the particular conditions before relying on any deadline. If you found this FIDIC timeline useful, subscribe for more practical videos on FIDIC contracts, Primavera P6, delay analysis, EIT claims, and construction planning. Thank you for watching.